but welcome everyone to What You Know About Inhalants. So, who are we? Phoenix House, as I mentioned earlier. We are a nonprofit organization that is located in San Fernando Valley. And yes, most of us did feel the earthquake today, I hope, as the poll says. We offer a variety of community-based support groups that we will discuss at the end, just give you a little bit of information about it. We do offer mental health services, outpatient intense substance abuse services, and parental guidance through wraparound services. We will touch base on how those services work, how you can communicate with us, and how those support services work with interaction with the youth in our community. So just a little bit of our outline, what we're going to touch base on inhalants today. What are they? Some of the risks and risks of overdose. You can overdose from inhalants. Short-term effects of inhalants, addiction, legal aspects. There are legal repercussions for those individuals that try to purchase it under 18. And a little bit on popular culture. So we will begin the presentation with a short clip that introduces inhalants. In this case, nitrous oxide, known as NOS, which is one of the more major chemicals that is being used and found in the streets in the hands of the youth. The setting of this film is the city of Rialto, which is a local town here in Southern California, located not too far from Arbor City. So let's begin.
It's become a top choice in the party scene. Nitrous oxide, better known as NOS.
We got some NOS.
Inhaling it gives a sense of euphoria as it cuts off oxygen to the brain. But when used in the wrong hands, innocence can pay the price.
I'm never gonna forget my daughter.
I too miss my son. He's been gone a little over 4 years now.
And as law enforcement tries to keep up with the problem,
hey bud, look at that. Little pink in the back.
Fox 11 is going undercover, bringing you along to several spots all across the Southland as we pull back the curtain on how and where NOS is being sold, sometimes with catastrophic consequences.
People are being killed, people are being hurt.
November 2017, 11-year-old Alexra Yepes is killed at a Boyle Heights intersection after a speeding driver causes a chain reaction crash. Prosecutors say the driver, Joe Luis Perez, was high on nitrous at the time of the crash. He was arrested at the scene and now faces up to 13 years in prison. Months after her death, Yepes' family joined us at her gravesite as her father remembered his little girl.
I'm by right next to her, a little piece of land, because I want to be with her. When God called me, I'm going to be with her.
The family is joined by Ed Scott, who is all too familiar with their pain. In 2014, his 17-year-old son Eddie was killed when the driver of the car he was a passenger in inhaled nitrous from a balloon and crashed right into a tree. Eddie died instantly. The NOS canister was recovered at the scene.
They're basically identical cases. Both boys driving the cars were inhaling nitrous oxide. They passed out, whether it be for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is. They passed out and crashed. I come out here and see Electra whenever I come by on the 60 freeway. And
thank you.
Frankly, I have the same feeling and the same emotions when I come and see her that I do when I go see Eddie. And I know that her and Eddie are up there today watching over us.
And nitrous isn't only dangerous when it's used behind the wheel. In 2012, a 31-year-old man was killed in an accident near downtown LA when a nitrous tank he was handling suddenly exploded inside of his shop. In 2015, a 23-year-old man died at a local illegal nitrous party after he was shot during a fight. His killer was never caught.
I'm assuming that he's still out there doing the same thing. And the guy that promotes this stuff, they're still promoting these kind of parties and they're still out there. Nothing has been done.
For years, Fox 11 has been investigating these illegal nitrous parties, which are held all over the Southland, often advertised by party promoters. These underground parties happen almost weekly. They can be found advertised all over social media, and teens seemingly have little to no issue finding the NOS and using it however they see fit, including this disturbing video we shot of a teen inhaling a balloon while he's behind the wheel and filling up at a gas station. For the past several months, Fox 11 has gone undercover to multiple locations all across the Southland to pull back the curtain on nitrous sales and how young people are getting their hands on it. This is video we shot at an auto shop in San Pedro. We watched as dozens of teens and young adults came and went from the business, where they filled up their tanks with NOS. Some brought the tanks right into waiting vehicles. Others had balloons ready to go. Some appeared to be doing drugs in their vehicles before driving away. All of this happening as an oblivious LAPD officer drives by, unaware of what's going on. For hours, we watched as a seemingly endless wave of people came and went to fill up on NOS, including a group of young girls who decided to take a quick bathroom break in the parking lot once they put their tank in the car. Neighbors who live nearby tell us off camera they're just sick of it.
I've seen them inhaling it out of the balloons while they're driving. I would like to see the police come and do something about it.
On another night, we stopped by a different auto shop, this time in Carson. We saw a line of people waiting outside, some with large canisters, so we went up for a closer look. Inside, there were several canisters of nitrous, and we witnessed cash exchanges as employees delivered the NOS to waiting customers. At another location in East LA, more of the same, as customers showed up throughout the night to fill up their tanks and get their fix. And it was the same story at this location in South Central LA, as people came and went with their nitrous tanks, looking for a fill-up, with this driver and passenger passing their tank back and forth as the car is running. Here in California, nitrous is only legal for medical use or car maintenance, and selling or possessing nitrous for illegal use is only a misdemeanor.
The consequences just aren't there. There's no fear.
Sergeant Cameron Nelson of Rialto PD says the lax laws make people feel safe about using NOS.
Prosecution is difficult. The high is so short, but so extreme that when we get on scene after a huge incident, a lot of times we can't recognize the symptomology of it.
Rialto PD has been trying to crack down. They previously raided RCO Auto Repair in Fontana for selling NOS to minors after hours. It's the same shop where Ed Scott Sr. says his son got the gas the day he died. Ed Scott Sr. is fighting back.
Air source, no more nitrous!
He held a protest outside of Air Source Industries in Long Beach as he's suing the company over the death of his son. His lawsuit claims the FDA identified Air Source as one of the largest suppliers of NOS to auto shops in SoCal, and that their tanks were found at RCO.
Those tanks also had Air Source's name on it. Air Source clearly knows what they were doing.
Air Source responded by saying they condemn the illegal sale of nitrous and they've complied with all laws and regulations. In the meantime, police say NOS has turned into a regional problem, stretching from the LA area all the way down to San Diego. And until the penalties get tougher, more innocent victims will be caught in the middle.
Look at the stories. Look at what's going on around us. It's not harmless.
All right, so this video will introduce our topic for today, and we will dissect each piece of it as we go about how it affects our mind, how these different chemicals are available, and so on. So with it, I introduce you, Stephen. Stephen, go ahead, sir. Different types of inhalants.
Thank you, Juan. So that's correct. My name is Stephen, part of the prevention team here at Phoenix House. So we're going to be talking about the different types of inhalants. So for the most part, they're broken down into 4 different categories. It's aerosols, gases, liquids, and nitrates. And to the left, you'll see an example of each one. So we will begin the presentation with aerosols. Go ahead, Juan.
There you go.
So aerosols. So aerosols are sprays that contain propellants and solvents. There are many types, but these are the most common. So it could be spray paints, deodorants, most commonly like Axe, your bathroom deodorants, hairsprays, vegetable oil sprays for cooking, fabric protector sprays, and I think for teachers, or the one that most teachers or school officials had to keep an eye on, was the computer cleaner or duster, most commonly known as CCs. So to the left, you'll see an example of each one, which is the Scotch Guard as the fabric protector sprays, the Glade, the green bottle, which is the bathroom deodorant sprays, your your spray paints at the top middle. The bottom middle, you'll see a can of a computer duster. And then to the bottom left-hand side, you'll see what it looks like when it looks like a young man. He sprayed some sort of aerosol spray into the bag, and he's inhaling the chemicals or the solvents that are in the bag. So that's one of the common ways that they use the aerosols. So moving along, we will talk about gases. Next slide, one. So gases include medical anesthetics as well as gases used in household or commercial products. Medical anesthetics include either chloroform, halothane, and nitrous oxide, or most commonly called laughing gas. The nitrous oxide can be used if you have like a dentist appointment. Usually sometimes the practice is to use nitrous oxide when they have to do some sort of procedure on you. It's not just like when you're going to go in for a routine like teeth cleaning, but it's if they have to do some sort of procedure where they need to put you under but not fully under, they use the laughing gas. So but above all of these, the nitrous oxide is the most abused of these gases. Nitrous oxide can be found in whipped cream can dispensers, which is at the top middle. Next to the ready whip can, you can see the commercial grade whipped cream dispenser. So these products are used with the NO2 cartridges to the left. So there's a point where you can place it inside the canister in which it opens up the NO2 cartridge. And once you release the lever, what they're using it like is to fill up balloons at this point, as opposed to carrying around the NOS tags, which is at the bottom middle. So this is the most common used or most abused gases. So other household commercial products containing gases can include butane lighters, which are the normal lighters that you use basically to light a cigarette, propane tanks, and refrigerants. But I want to emphasize the most common use amongst youth, NOS or nitrous oxide. Okay, one next slide. So next slide, we will talk about volatile solvents. These are liquids that vaporize at room temperature. They are found in a multitude of inexpensive, easily available products used for common household and industrial purposes. So these are the products that you can find at schools, offices, basically any place of employment where you're going to need the whiteouts, the markers, the glues, things like that. So that's why it's more dangerous. As a parent, you could be going back to school shopping and not know that you're buying the Sharpies or the whiteouts or the glues that contain these chemicals in them that an adolescent can easily inhale or use and abuse it in a sense. So it's always important to read the labels on the packages, or for instance, try to find a different way or a different product to buy, like the whiteouts. Now they're selling them in a tape form. They're not selling them so much the liquid form, it's more the tape form. Or in my house, all of these things are locked up, they're taken away from my kids. If there's a project or things that they have to do for school, then absolutely, as a parent, I sit down with them and I help them out with their projects. That way I know, hey, none of this stuff is going missing or no one's getting hurt, things like that. So definitely want to encourage that. So uh, the paint thinners, and removers, these are all things that can be bought at your local Walmarts, your local Targets. So definitely want to encourage you to be mindful when you buy these things, then you keep an eye on them. So moving along, we will talk about, or next slide one, we will talk about nitrites. So these aren't as common here in the United States. It's common in other areas, but these are still some of the other forms that individuals use. So the nitrates are commonly known as poppers or snappers, and they're often considered a special class of inhalants. Unlike most other inhalants, which act directly on the central nervous system, nitrites act primarily to dilate blood vessels and relax the muscles. While other inhalants are used to alter mood, nitrates are used primarily as sexual enhancers. So, but nitrites are used in certain diagnostic procedures and are prescribed and were prescribed in the past to treat some patients for heart pain. So there is a purpose to them, but of course it's being abused in certain areas. So the nitrites now are prohibited by the Consumer Product Safety Commission, but can still be found and sold in mainly these are like bars or clubs that sell these, and they're sold in small bottles. They can be labeled as video head cleaner, room odorizer, leather cleaners, or liquid aroma. This is the way they're able to legally obtain these products and legally sell them, even though the purchaser might be abusing them or not using them the way they were designed to be used. So moving along, Julian will let you know who uses inhalants.
Hey, so first off, what are we looking at? So this is a study done by NIDA asking youth about drug use. No, they didn't only ask about inhalants. They actually asked about several substances and the youth's experiences with all these substances. So these are their findings with inhalants just in particular. Of all the youth that was surveyed, these were the results. It seems that about 10% of inhalant use has happened before the youth has entered into 8th grade. And this can be for any number of reasons. One can be ease of access, like how Steve was talking about, that a lot of these substances, that they're things that we all have at home. Like we all have glue at home. We all have like nail polish remover at home. Or some of these substances that's just some of the substances that we mentioned before. And just as we all know, every kid is a curious kid. So as you can see, so there were some statistical changes that took place in 12th grade. I think this may be due to some underreporting from them. Maybe they were afraid of getting in trouble. Maybe they didn't want to admit to any use or something like that. But on the next slide, you can see that lifetime use is pretty consistent at about 10%, meaning that about 10% of the population has used inhalants in some way. Some of the past year numbers increase from age 12 to 17 and age 18 to 25, and then decrease again at about age 26 and older. So that means that the groups from 12 to 25 are the largest at-risk youth, mostly focusing on 12 and older. So in some of our other sessions, we spoke about risk factors for drug use and the different kinds of risk factors that there are. It seems that for inhalant use, the largest risk factors are peer pressure, drug availability, and some other factors such as loneliness, isolation, and boredom, which a lot of adolescents actually experience and go through. With that being said, just please try to make sure that you're checking in with your youth and your adolescents and your loved ones. This is a difficult time for all of us. Steve, what are some ways that people are actually using these drugs?
Awesome, Julian. Yes, so inhalant use. These are some of the ways inhalants are being abused. So the first one is they're sniffing or snorting fumes from containers. So you can, I've seen videos or pictures where they're spraying things into like soda cans or water bottles, and then they're sniffing the fumes or the solvents that come from that. They're also spraying directly. They're spraying aerosols directly into the nose or mouth. Another form, it's called bagging. This is a slang term for it. As we saw in one of the pictures, we saw the young man. He had sprayed one of the aerosols into the bag, and he was sniffing the substance. So sniffing substance is sprayed inside a bag. They're also huffing. This comes from an inhalant soaked rag stuffed in the mouth, and just your typical inhaling. This is the common one, which is the NOS filled with balloons. I'm sorry, the nitrous oxide inside the balloons, and they're inhaling the nitrous oxide inside the balloons. So next we will talk about the risk for overdose. I think a question we all have is, can a person overdose on inhalants? The answer is yes. A person can overdose on inhalants, and an overdose occurs when a person uses too much of a drug and has a toxic reaction that results in serious harmful symptoms or death. Since in the inhalants, there are many solvents and aerosol sprays are highly concentrated, meaning they contain a large amount of chemicals with a lot of active ingredients. Sniffing these products can cause the heart to stop within minutes. This condition is known as sudden sniffing death. This can happen to otherwise healthy young people the first time they use an inhalant. I want to definitely emphasize that section because for the most part, we know that if a cigarette smoker smokes for 15, 20 years, they might develop cancer or they might not. But smoking a cigarette for the first time won't kill you, right? But sniffing or inhaling an inhalant, it clearly states on here that it says otherwise healthy young people the first time they use an inhalant. So they can definitely die on the first time. It doesn't have like an effect where it might need 10, 15 years in order for it to create this problem. So definitely using the first time is very dangerous. So using inhalants with a paper or plastic bag or in a closed area may cause deaths from suffocation. I know for a lot of individuals who might work in a field where, or just you're doing projects at home, as a homeowner, you might be stripping your deck, the paint off your deck, or you might be using a paint thinner, or you might be painting, and all of these things, tell you to be careful because if you inhale it, there could be repercussions to it. So definitely be careful because there is a risk for overdose. So moving along, my colleague Juan will talk about inhalants and addiction.
Thank you, Steve. So, the repeated use of inhalants has shown eventful road to addiction. And like my friend Steven I was talking about earlier in a little bit on overdose, the inhalants have aerosol propellants that can create this sense of euphoria, as Claudia will explain a little bit more on the short-term effects. Some of the strong arguments and reasons for individuals that lack the motivation to quit is because of the withdrawal properties. A couple weeks ago, we did explain how opiates create withdrawal effects that are unbearable. And this is for an example that's not a textbook definition. It's an actual individual's perception that we witness going through withdrawals and their personal description of it working in the field. Some examples of the withdrawals from the inhalants include nausea, loss of appetite, sweating, problem sleeping, and mood changes. And there might be others that are not as common, but these are some of the most common side effects in withdrawals and inhalants. Is there help? Yes, there are support groups. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. This behavior replacement tool is really successful and engages individuals through education versus persuasion. There are also other positive behavioral support methods such as rewards, and especially in the youth, this always seems to be the case that they respond better with a reward and education at the same time. And this approach is kind of the approach that we take in outpatient therapy sessions that we have with our clients. Just a quick snippet of how we proceed with outpatient services. Moving along with the legal aspects, we're going to touch base on two: the solvent glues and nitrous oxide, which is the more common ones. Majority of the states have taken pieces of legislation to curb this ongoing crisis. So, for example, many of us consumers, as myself, have experienced firsthand regulations. When you go in to, like, let's say like a hardware store and you have a project working on, let's say, repainting some chairs, and you're purchasing some spray cans of your favorite color, you'll find, first of all, a warning label that's clearly there on the can that, you know, specifies that the inhalation and the products in this can are toxic. Number two, there are some legislation pieces that are local municipalities that require identification to purchase these products. The DEA does not have a first run regulation in these chemicals. It falls under the Food and Drug Administration. And they do work together in conjunction with local cities to enact ordinances that place protocols to keep our communities safe. With this information, I leave you with some food for thought how, you know, these pieces of legislation are helping our communities. Claudia will introduce our next interesting topic on its short-term effects. Go ahead, Claudia. The stage is all yours.
Thanks, Juan. So, yeah, we've heard a lot about inhalants, but it's also important to know what inhalants can cause. So some short-term effects of inhalants can be slurred or distorted speech, lack of coordination, which can cause dangerous falls, dizziness, and possible hallucinations. So for the individual using it, it can cause euphoria, which is what makes the user feel high, as Juan mentioned. But it is also crucial to understand that inhalants contain chemicals, and when they are inhaled, they go straight to the lungs and reach the brain within seconds. It's also important to understand that the euphoria feeling, it only lasts a few seconds, which provokes the user to want to use it again to reach that euphoria feeling. And this is really bad because it can cause hypoxia. So if you are unaware of what hypoxia is, it is the lack of oxygen to the brain. And in other words, this can cause brain cells to die, which can affect possible other organs and can lead to a certain level of toxicity, which can sometimes lead to sudden death. And then in the next slide, we'll discuss the long-term effects of inhalants. So the long-term effects of inhalants, some of them include liver and kidney damage, hearing loss, impaired learning, memory loss, bone marrow damage, loss of coordination, limb spasms from nerve damage, delayed behavioral development, and brain damage from the hypoxia effect. So it's important to note that these long-term effects can be very crucial and detrimental to the user. Now the next slide will show a video that really represents what serious effect that can happen from inhalants.
In the closet is an item that a friend can say, hey, do this. And you don't really associate that with drugs of abuse.
Nobody expects that something that can kill you the very first time you try it would be sitting in your cabinet.
All over the house we found, here are the rubber bands, here are the plastic bags, here are the rubber gloves.
He thought it was going to be funny. He thought it was going to make his friend laugh. He wanted to giggle, change his voice. And curiosity is what killed him.
People.
So as you guys can see from that video, one huff can really kill you, and the serious effects from inhalants can be very detrimental to the user. Moving along, we have Julian, who will be discussing the pop culture.
Hey everyone. So really quick before we go on to the pop culture slide, I just wanted to briefly mention that most inhalants are gases. Some gases happen to be heavier than the air around us. So that's why it's important for proper ventilation. Like if you are gluing something at home, or if you are like fixing your deck, how Steve was saying, if you're doing something like that at home, and you happen to be like low, like maybe you're working in a pool, or maybe you're doing something like that, just be careful. Make sure that you're getting air. Maybe even point a fan down. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. So really quick, in media and viral videos, there are several examples of people returning from the dentist office who were given high doses of nitrous oxide or laughing gas. And most of these examples are laughed off. There are also several celebrities who have been known to use the drug. At times, it seems that because most things associated with inhalants seem innocuous, there's very little danger in these products. However, as we learned in this presentation, inhalants pose a severe risk of abuse and health risks, especially for those who are young and whose brains are still developing. On the left, you can see the TikTok logo. TikTok has recently seen a massive influx of youth abusing inhalants such as computer cleaner and whippets. Most of these videos are removed, but not before being seen by hundreds and maybe thousands of impressionable youth who are trying their hardest to go viral. But under that, we have Reddit's logo. Reddit is home to millions of users and thousands of topics. The topic of whippets and NAS is displayed on Reddit, and anyone who's willing to look for the information of how to use, abuse, and where to get whippets, all that information is just a few clicks away. One thing in pop culture that you might want to look out for at home is body sprays. So they're massively popular among school-age youth. And I know that for us, it was a problem in our residential treatment program because most parents didn't see the potential for abuse, and that led to an ease of access to that particular kind of inhalant. And a lot of these things that seem pretty innocuous, that makes them more easily accessible for all the youth, which is why most youth tend to use even before the 8th grade. So before the age of about 12 or 13, they've already experimented with some kind of inhalant. We could go on to the next slide, Juan. So just really quick before we go, I wanted to share the story of Steve-O, since we're talking about pop culture anyway. Steve-O is a notable performer and entertainer. He was on MTV for several years and has been in several movies and is now a performer and a comedian. He rose to fame performing stunts and being known as a risk taker type of guy. But unfortunately, he fell into addiction, and later in his teenage years, after struggling with substance use during his teenage years. I wanted to show these images of Steve-O as a child because we all like to think that the children that we know and that we serve will be perfect little angels forever and they won't have any struggles or any issues, but that's mostly wishful thinking. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick warning slide that after this, there's an extremely graphic image that shows Steve-O at the peak of his addiction. He was hallucinating, using several substances, hiding his substance use from his friends and his family, and he had stated that he knew that he felt like he was going to die soon. Show the slide, please. So this photo shows what Steve-O became because of his addiction. If you read the caption, it was posted by him on his 10th year of sobriety. So this was done after Steve-O had already been sober for 10 years, and this is him like looking back and trying to chronicle his life. You could go on to the next slide so we don't keep it up too long. So this is Steve-O today. His struggle with addiction is all public knowledge if you want to look it up. He openly states he is now in his 12-step program and is continually improving upon himself. I'd just like to state really quick before we go that he's not perfect, I'm not perfect, and no one is perfect. However, this shows that even though some of us may get lost or struggle, there's always hope, you can always change, and we're here to help. Steve, what are some of the services that we offer?
Hi. So that was some of the references that we were able to obtain our information on. If you'd like, we can definitely email those to you. You can go ahead and put your email in the chat section at the very bottom. But some of the Phoenix House services that we provide. So at the top left, you're going to see outpatient services. So this is outpatient services for substance abuse. Lolita Otley is the individual in charge of that program. So we can definitely connect you with her. If you know any adolescent that's looking for, or any parent that wants to ask questions in reference to outpatient services for substance abuse. We also have a mental health, outpatient mental health program, and Jenny Sanchez is in charge of that program. So we can definitely connect you with Jenny Sanchez. If you know anyone that's looking for outpatient mental health services, we would be able to connect you with them. For wraparound, this is another program that we offer at Phoenix House. With this program, you would need a referral from DCFS or your social worker, or a referral from a probation officer. So this is a treatment team dealing with behavioral issues. Um, so it's a team developed of a facilitator, a therapist, parent partner, a child and family specialist, and they basically assist the parents or caregiver with any behavioral issues that they may be experiencing with an adolescent. And then to the bottom right, you're going to see MAT services. So definitely, if you know anyone that's struggling with alcohol or opiate withdrawals, please give us a call. We can definitely connect them with an agency that can help them out or answer any questions in reference to MAT services. The next slide, you're going to see our contact information. So the top left is Sarah Green, the program coordinator. There's her contact information. We have Morgan Wallace. She's our clinical trainer. We have Juan Jimenez, Julian Olmos, Claudia Buenrostro, and myself, Stephen Flamenco. We are part of the prevention team here at Phoenix House. This is our contact information. If anyone has any questions, or you would like the slides, or if you want us to present at your agency, please contact Sarah Green or any one of us. And then I also want to encourage you, at the right and the left, you're going to see the Facebook logo and the Instagram logo. You can go ahead and scan the QR code that takes you to our Instagram and Facebook page, where we post all of the presentations that we're doing, upcoming presentations, flyers on bringing awareness on, certain things that are happening within the community, just overall any information that we would want our community to know, either we're presenting or resources that are provided in the community. So I highly encourage you guys. It's real easy. You can just open up the camera in your smartphone and then just put it over it, and it should take you to the Instagram or Facebook page. Now, I think at this point, Juan, we can stop the recording and open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions,